The cockpit of the Salvage King didn't hum with the refined purr of a Synapse interceptor. It roared like a beast waking from hibernation. Ilara Vex gripped the co-pilot's restraint bar, her knuckles white, as the viewport filled with the terrifying grandeur of an Imperium dreadnought. They were diving straight into the teeth of the blockade, a maneuver that defied every logic circuit in the Galactic Council database. Jax Thorne sat beside her, hands blurring over manual controls that looked more like industrial machinery than starship avionics. He smelled of ozone and peppermint, a sharp, grounding scent amidst the chaotic flashing of proximity alarms. They calculated every variable except our stubbornness, Jax shouted over the screaming hull, banking the heavy freighter into a corkscrew roll that pinned Ilara against her seat. Jax, and the forward shields are non-existent, Ilara yelled, her heart hammering a rhythm that matched the ship's vibration. That is a planet-killer-class vessel. Good, Jax grinned, his eyes alight with a terrifying magnetic focus. Then they won't expect a mining laser. He slammed the throttle. The ship shuddered violently, not with fear, but with anticipation. A beam of concentrated plasma, designed to crack planetary crusts, erupted from their bow. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't military grade. But as it sheared through the dreadnought's pristine ablative armor, Ilara realized she was witnessing the raw, unfiltered essence of the Terran spirit. This was the defining moment of a science fiction story written in fire, where the so-called Space Orcs of the galaxy proved that human ingenuity was the deadliest variable of all. 72 hours earlier, the wind on the moon of Ethelgard didn't just blow, it scoured. It was a landscape of razor-sharp crags and blinding white dust, a hostile environment that stripped away hope as efficiently as it stripped paint from alloy. Ilara lay propped against a quartz formation, her leg armor shattered, watching the violet ion trails of her own squadron vanishing into the upper atmosphere. Betrayal didn't burn, it froze. The Synapse Imperium operated on binary efficiency. If a unit is compromised, discard it. She was the compromised unit. She checked her vitals on her wrist comp. Oxygen critical, suit integrity failing. She was an apex predator of the Stellar Navy reduced to a statistic. Then came the noise. It wasn't the silent anti-grav glide of a rescue dropship. It was a rhythmic, mechanical thumping that vibrated through the ground and into her bones. A vehicle crested the ridge, a six-wheeled rover that looked like it had been welded together from 3 different wrecks. It lacked the smooth curves of civilized tech, favoring hard angles and oversized tires. The rover skidded to a halt, spraying gravel. The hatch popped open, and a figure in a pressurized flight suit hopped out. He didn't scan the perimeter with a tactical drone. He just jogged toward her, kicking up dust, moving with a fluid, reckless confidence. Jax Thorne knelt beside her, his faceplate retracting to reveal a human face etched with concern rather than calculation. "You look like you've had a bad day at the office, Commander," he said, his voice carrying a warmth that the cold moon lacked. "I am a liability," Ilara recited, with the indoctrination dying hard. "Standard protocol dictates—" "Yeah, I failed that class," Jax interrupted. He pulled a roll of silver adhesive tape and a bypass unit from his belt. "We don't do protocol, we do survival." He began patching her suit breach with the tape. It was absurd. It was primitive. Yet the hissing leak stopped instantly. As he worked, his hands brushed against her armor, and even through the layers of protective plating, Ilara felt a jolt, a sudden electric awareness of the man behind the mechanic. This wasn't just a rescue, it was the collision of 2 worlds. "Why?" she asked, watching him rig a localized heater using a power cell and copper wire. "I am your enemy." Jax looked up, locking eyes with her. "Because out here on a death world or rock like this, the only enemy is the cold. And humanity? On it we burn bright. A mining laser cuts hulls just as well as a warship's cannon," Ilara shouted, her fingers flying across the auxiliary console. She wasn't just a passenger anymore. She was the co-pilot. The Salvage King shuddered as the particle beam sliced through the dreadnought's shield generator, exposing the raw, vulnerable alloy beneath. Outside the viewport, the void was alive with chaos. The Terran flotilla, a swarm of retrofitted tugs, cargo haulers, and asteroid breakers, buzzed around the massive Imperium vessel like angry hornets. They moved without formation, a dizzying display of asymmetric warfare that the rigid targeting algorithms of the Synapse fleet couldn't predict. "Shields are down!" Jax roared, wrestling the yoke as a stray plasma bolt scorched the dark paint of their port wing. Ari deploying the drill drones. This was the madness of the Terran spirit. The Synapse Imperium fought with geometric precision, but humanity fought with creative destruction. A cloud of automated mining drones, usually programmed to pulverize asteroids, latched onto the dreadnought's exposed hull. They didn't fire, they simply activated their sonic drills. The vibration rattled Alara's teeth. On the tactical display, the dreadnought's structural integrity plummeted. The massive warship wasn't being outgunned. It was being dismantled by industrial tools. "They're panicking," Alara breathed, watching the enemy ship vent atmosphere and list to the side. "The Galactic Council will never believe this." "Believe it," Jack said, his voice dropping an octave, sudden and intimate, in the tight confines of the cockpit. He looked at her, and for a split second, the battle faded. The adrenaline coursing through his veins mirrored the heat rising in her own. There was a fierce, protective light in his eyes, the look of an apex predator defending its mate. "We don't fight to conquer, Alara. We fight to keep what's ours." The dreadnought's engines flared in a desperate retreat, unable to calculate a victory against such erratic defiance. The communication channels erupted in cheers, not the disciplined affirmation of soldiers, but the raucous, joyous howling of survivors. As the enemy warped away, leaving streaks of blue light against the stars, the silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was electric. Jack slumped back, exhaling a long breath, and turned his chair to face her. The sweat on his brow caught the glow of the dashboard lights. The distance between them felt non-existent, charged with the terrifying relief of survival. "You fly pretty good for a recovering Imperial," Jax teased, though his hand found hers, his thumb tracing the line of her knuckles. The touch was grounding, a tether in the vastness of space. Alara looked at their joined hands. The Imperium had taught her that emotion was a weakness, a flaw in the system. But as she looked at Jax, this man who used duct tape to fix life support and mining lasers to topple giants, she understood the flaw was in the logic, not the heart. "I had a good teacher," Alara replied, her pulse finally steadying. She realized then that ethical leadership wasn't about imposing order through fear. It was about inspiring loyalty through protection. The Synapse had left her to freeze. The humans had burned the sky to save her. "The Council calls you Space Orcs because you are wild," Alara whispered, squeezing his hand back. "But they forget that wild things are the hardest to kill." Jack smiled, that same reckless, brilliant smile that had greeted her on the ice. "Welcome to the pack, Commander." The Salvage King banked toward the fleet, no longer a scavenger ship, but a home. Alara Vex had lost an empire, but in the chaos of human ingenuity, she had found something far more permanent, a future.